One of the biggest problems that we have is 200 million Americans make less than $20,000 a year. That's 40% of this country.
The economy is going pretty strong, right? There's roughly 4% unemployment, 3.9% unemployment. Well, unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs.
Okay, wow, so this is new for me. This is the first time I've ever encountered a subject matter which was so incoherently stupid that I've spent multiple days simply trying to find the best way to approach it, yet at the same time is actually worth making a video on. So, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is a congresswoman who emerged recently on the political scene and has been stirring up the mainstream media on both sides. The left establishment media trying to pretend that Cortez's ideas are rebellious or countercultural, and also trying to pull a no true Scotsman fallacy and pretend that Ocasio-Cortez is just a social democrat, actually, not really a democratic socialist.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's primary win Tuesday night here in New York. The term democratic socialism was the most searched term on Merriam-Webster's website. So what are we talking about here? The word most people focus on is socialism. But while democratic socialists pull some ideas from that ideology, they are not traditional socialists. There is no call for communal ownership of production.
And now Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been describing herself as a democratic socialist, but again, she's more of a social democrat.
Even though she's a member of Democratic Socialists of America, who explicitly in a manifesto their group published in 1998, titled Where We Stand, stated that they want to seize the means of production and collectivize the economy. And even in public interviews, Cortez has explicitly stated that her goals are to create a post-capitalist society.
And so I do think that right now, when we have this no-holds-barred, Wild West hyper-capitalism, what that means is profit at any cost. Capitalism has not always existed in the world, and it will not always exist in the world.
To say that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a social democrat who just wants an expansion of the welfare state is, at best, ignorant of her actual political leanings and affiliations, and is at worst an outright lie. And how the media's narratives about Cortez contradict one another so blatantly shows me that it's mostly the latter. For example, Republicans hate Cortez for calling herself a socialist and advocating for socialism, and that makes her an anti-establishment rebel who should lead the country and stick up to the mainstream politicians. But if you actually start pointing out the failures of socialism and explaining why socialism doesn't work, all of a sudden she's no longer a socialist and is just a social democrat.
Just 105 days until the country votes in the midterm elections. Have you noticed how obsessed some conservatives have become with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? She, of course, is the Democratic Socialist who won an upset victory last month, surprised everyone, in conservative hand-wringing. The conservative Fox Business Network tweeted out a portion of one speech without comment in what appeared to be a warning about these words from the scary socialist.
They have spent years and years saying that Barack Obama is a secret socialist,
right.
that this person's a secret socialist. And it was the secret part that sort of created the suspicion. When it's out in the open, it becomes a lot more difficult for them to deal with.
That's a losing battle, and I'm not willing to fight that battle anymore. So, and I fought it for a long time. So what I do now is I just use it interchangeably. And when I talk about democratic socialism, I mean both democratic socialism, the post-capitalist philosophy, but also social democracy. So in a weird way, there's like a moderate / centrist version of democratic socialism, which is social democracy.
Ah, what's that awful sound? Oh wait, it's just George Orwell spinning in his grave. Now, the thing is, there are so many economic and logical fallacies in general surrounding the arguments around Cortez, like in the clips I was just presenting a moment ago, where the panelists are disagreeing with the government nationalizing certain markets on the basis that it's economically unfeasible to do so, leading to the media defending Cortez to pull a bait and switch and claim that everyone who disagrees with Cortez is just saying that nobody should have healthcare and education. That's the typical dishonest snake oil bullshit I would expect from the media and leftists talking about economics. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in the stuff that she says alone, deviates so far from progressive pseudo-intellectualism that these very blatant and obvious flaws in the debate sort of get overshadowed by the monumentally retarded things that Cortez herself states. And these aren't one-time blunders either. It's virtually every time this woman makes a public appearance, she excretes at least one of these cognitive crib deaths into the world. I mean, you have to hear this fucking shit to believe it.
One of the biggest problems that we have is 200 million Americans make less than $20,000 a year. That's 40% of this country.
The first time I heard that, I legitimately laughed so hard that I almost started crying, but that's the trouble with Cortez. How do you even approach this? Is it such an absurd thing to say that it in of itself is ridiculous? Or do you actually need to explain the issues with it, as if there are people who are so dumb that they actually believe that? Such as the fact that there are not 500 million people in America, and according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 59 million people make under $20,000 a year, and 99% of them are either college students or high school students working part-time positions, not people who are trying to feed their families.
Now, if we implement a carbon tax on top of that, so that we can transition and financially incentivize people away from fossil fuels. If we implement a carbon tax, that's an additional amount of a large amount of revenue that we can have.
She advocates for a carbon tax on the basis that it'll drive consumers away from oil and gas products, since the tax will significantly reduce the average consumer's ability to afford these commodities, yet she advocates for increasing the minimum wage on the basis that it'll stimulate the job market. And earlier in the video we're watching, which is from her interview on Trevor Noah, she said that increasing taxes would help create job growth. So I wouldn't expect anything more from a person like this, considering the things that she's said previously, but she just straight up doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. And whenever she's not verbally excreting stupidity that is so strong that I can actually feel that it has a physical substance digging into my ears like a fucking power drill, she's going through a talking point list just naming off shit that tests well in order to try and appeal to the Young Turks audience. Speaking of which, she's even ripped off some of the same mannerisms of other popular progressive socialist personalities, such as how she rhetorically asks other panelists right every few sentences to lower their skepticism towards what she's saying, which she got directly from Cenk Uygur.
Right. I think the numbers that you just talked about is part of the problem, right? Because we look at these figures and we say, oh, unemployment is low, everything is fine, right? Well, unemployment is low because everyone has 2 jobs.
Right?
Right?
No, you're wrong.
Right?
No, I said you're wrong.
Right?
Less than 5% of the labor force is working more than 40 hours a week according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and that's not how job statistics work. Employment statistics measure the amount of people employed by sampling the population, and not the amount of jobs available compared to how many exist. You are fucking dead wrong. You're both wrong about the figures you presented, but you don't even understand how the figures you're attempting to reference collect data. You literally could not be more wrong if you fucking tried.
Right?
I fucking give up. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the dumbest person in American politics, and her mannerisms as well as her phrasing tell me that she would give the same answer to these complex political issues as a literal 12-year-old. So, I don't really encourage voting, and I certainly wouldn't myself, but I would really love to see Cortez in Congress for two main reasons. For one, if she becomes a congresswoman, we would have enough hot takes from the far left to last for generations, which is both hilarious and it hurts them politically, since everybody would see for themselves much more easily how much of a joke their ideology is. It would basically ensure that socialists or progressives can't get political power in the United States for a very, very long time. And considering how close the economy is to being decentralized through counter-economics, that would be a great thing. It would also be a great step towards social progress, too, to have the first congresswoman who requires a tard wrangler. Secondly, unlike other socialist progressives, she's far too dumb to be deep and deceptive in her plotting. In fact, I doubt that she even understands who Niccolo Machiavelli is. So, her planners from behind the scenes will tell her what they're planning on doing, and she'll straight up just tell everybody in front of national media stations what their plans are, but advertise it as if it's something that everyone should vote for her for. Don't believe me? Listen to this.
And there, we wanted to start with Alexandria. If you could talk about how you think you achieved this victory, what exactly you did.
Yeah, and I think that I do think that the way that we won in New York 14 is a model for how we can win almost anywhere. I knew from the outset that, I had no misconceptions of the fact that the New York political machine was not going to be doing me any favors. And so I tried to kind of come in as clear-eyed as possible. And I knew that if we were going to win, the way that progressives win on an unapologetic message is by expanding the electorate.
Turn the inner cities into welfare-dependent fucking vote farms. That is the progressive strategy to achieving political change, coming straight from the horse's fucking mouth. Increase taxation to get more people into the lower income brackets, expand the welfare state to get people who are in the lower income brackets dependent on government handouts, then implement affirmative action policies within those welfare programs that directly advertise to people of other nations based in certain ethnic groups, and there you go. You've forced millions of people into effective serfdom and the socioeconomic equivalent of being dope fiends just to expand your approval rating by a few percentage points. You people are fucking disgusting! And Cortez is so brain dead that she doesn't realize that by being honest, socialists and progressives make themselves look fucking terrible. So yes, I believe that we should give Cortez as large of a platform as we possibly can. We need more idiots who have no filter in politics just to straight up tell us what their agenda is. Anyway, that's all for today's video. If you like it, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.